Hi, everybody. Michael Johnson with Shockwave Defense. We have Maury Abreu back with us from Omega Protective Concepts. He's doing a seminar at Shockwave Defense on April 21st and 22nd. In real fighting, you have one system. It's called human beings trying to kill each other, right?
Yeah.
So you have to figure out how to create that space when you have a tool that you're going to get to. And then sometimes also, I think you'll probably vouch for this also, that if you do not have a tool and the other person does, space is not always your friend. Right? Like if you have a gun and I don't, and I go, I'm going to create space and run. Well, I'm willing to bet you have about 7 friends that can run a lot faster than I can. Right?
Yeah.
So sometimes in those scenarios, you want to close the gap and try and keep it so that you can control that firearm or jam it or render it out of battery. But it's such an important concept to transition and actually have an instructor that understands that combat is not one-dimensional.
Excellent point that you just made. And I go heavy on this with law enforcement. Not so much civilians, not because civilians don't need it, but because law enforcement have, and I want to give this full context, so come to the course to get it, because this is going to be controversial, but I'm okay with that. Typically, law enforcement is taught this notion of reactionary gap. A reactionary gap is a imaginary, and I say imaginary because the shit doesn't work in real life. This imaginary idea that I'm going to have this distance and it's going to keep me safe. The problem with that is that by the very nature of being a human being, of making contact, if you're on the job and you're questioning someone, absent a felony car stop, you're closing the distance with that unknown, you're talking to them, you're inside that range. So this concept of constantly moving backwards, which is taught traditionally to law enforcement, creating space by going back. Well, you can come forward a lot faster than I can come back. I don't know what I'm occupying behind me. I don't know what's there, never mind the street conditions. So I love what you said about there's an absolute time that you're going to go forward, intentionally close that distance, change the mindset, and maybe do what we call a battlefield pickup, which is you may not be armed with a firearm now, but you will be in a second when you beat it out of his hands and use it if necessary.
When it comes time to go real and go hard and there's resistance involved, nobody's going to sit down and go, oh, he's moving back. There's this imaginary rule that I can't run forward. You try running back as quick as you can. I'll run forward. Let's see who wins. Right? That's why the Olympics, everyone's freaking running forward. Right? Nobody's
right.
I'm going backwards. Right? So you have these times, and I had a guy that I was working with a long time ago, brilliant human being, love him to death. He was with the NSA for a while, and he switched over to some other intelligent groups and some other groups that I won't talk about, but he had a concept of 3 things, you know. Sometimes you get out. That's where you create that reactionary gap. If you can't get out, you try and get behind, you know, so you got some cover and you got some way of fighting. If you can't do those 2 things, you get in. And we'll be covering some more of that inside of your seminar. I know we will, because we share a lot of similar concepts. So Maury, awesome interview. It's hard for us to keep this in our time frame. I'm also passionate about what we do, and I feel like you're a brother from a different mother.
Yes, God bless. Thank you.
You too, brother.